meeting to order. I apologize for being a little bit late tonight. This is the meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals, hereby called to order. The board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Brian Ellis.
Here.
Steve Haver.
Here.
Jean Drexel. Here. Brian Sanders.
Here.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for coming to the meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped, may be carried on live TV. And first I'd like to outline the procedures. Summary of the appeal is presented by the staff, then the appellant will present its case. The board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will then be permitted to testify and or ask questions of the board after being recognized by the chair. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium. You can come to either side. Usually people come over here, but at whichever side you like. Speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation with the case. All testimony is given to the board only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the appellant or anyone else in the audience, please. The board will only hear new non-repetitive evidence or questions. If you wish to show support for previous testimony, you may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating your support of prior testimony. Now, this is a time where we swear everybody in. Will all persons who may give testimony this evening please stand, raise your right hand, and swear or affirm. So if you think you might, you're not sure, okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Okay, and we'll jump into the agenda. Any changes in the agenda tonight?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
We actually don't have a quorum for the Board of Maintenance Appeals that we gathered last month. However, that item has kind of taken care of itself.
Right.
And you all received a photo showing the updates on that property. So we will have to reconvene in January to approve the minutes of that November meeting. Kind of the same deal for the minutes of the November Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We just don't have the right members here to approve those tonight.
Okay, so we'll just skip approval of the minutes. Yep. Does that sound good?
Does that also include journalization of those cases?
It does.
Okay. So we'll hold that over till next month.
Mm-hmm.
Our secretary is not here. Do we want to name an acting secretary? I'm not quite sure about procedure. Should we have cases to journalize tonight?
Sure, we can. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, given Mr. Hayes' communication via email, that he'd be willing to review records and stuff and in order to sign those.
It's either way. It may be simpler just to have them journalized this evening by nominating an acting secretary.
You want to nominate somebody, Mr. Hayes?
I nominate Steve.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Haber, congratulations.
Thanks. I just opened up my mouth and inserted foot, I think.
Mr. Haber will be our secretary this evening. Great. So we're through all the preliminaries. Should we jump into the cases then?
Sure.
Allison, what can you tell us about case 13-2014 BZA, lighting poles?
We should be pretty familiar with this property at this point. This is the new Belterra Park Casino, and tonight they're before us to request a variance from section 149A of the zoning resolution, and this is to allow lighting poles of approximately 28 feet high, where we have a maximum height of 24 feet permitted. This is a location map. Unfortunately, KGIS has not quite caught up with all of the development going on there, so a more accurate picture of what the site looks like today is this aerial that was under construction. In here you can see this existing parking lot now under construction. There's a little bit more parking in this area, as well as staff parking in this area of the site. The tract is approximately 98.3 acres and has 2,965 feet of frontage along Kellogg Road. It is within the floodplain. Surrounding uses to the north include retail. To the east and west are both riverfront, zoned H there, and then to the south is, of course, the Ohio River. And here we have an image of a site plan. This was actually used in the last variance request, so it does have one portion of the property highlighted there, but this is a more accurate description of the existing parking lot areas. In your packets, you received a detailed photometric plan showing the foot candles, as well as which individual pole was located where within the property. You can see here just an example of one of those poles. So during the construction process, Belterra Park selected lighting poles that were 25 feet high. They were then installed on bases that range in size from 24 inches to 30 inches. This coincidentally raised the total pole height to about 28 feet. Belterra Park at this time is looking to receive final occupancy on the site, and as staff is going through kind of our punch list of items that we need to check off, the lighting poles were discovered to be just too high. So a history of the site, Pinnacle Entertainment purchased River Downs in 2011. In December of 2012, they appeared before you all to request variances for both building height as well as fences. Those were granted in 2013. As construction was underway, you again heard a request from the facility, and this was for signage. And then again, in the beginning of this year, we heard a case that was involving this portion of the site, and that was for that screening wall. So the facility officially opened in May of this year, and we are at this time working for final occupancy on the site. Staff finds that the variance is not substantial. The elevation of Kellogg is actually higher than that of the parking area where the light poles exist, so we can kind of see from this aerial. Lighting poles on neighboring property, such as Riverbend as well as Coney Island, are of a similar height. The essential character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered, and adjoining properties will not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The portion of the property on which the lighting poles are located is surrounded by other entertainment uses in this area as well as this. It's not in close proximity to the residential development. The variance will not adversely affect the delivery of government services. And finally, the property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. If they do not receive the variance, each pole will have to be individually cut down or replaced in some way to meet that 24-foot height.
Okay, thank you. Good summary. Does the board have any questions for Allison?
The intention of the provision, as far as pole height is concerned, is to alleviate the potentiality of light cascading on.
Yeah, we try to kind of prevent the bleed over of light onto adjacent properties.
Okay, so regardless of the pole height, we've got some photometric studies here, which I think are grand, and our concern is, again, the intention of that provision is to understand and prevent cascading light onto adjacent properties.
Yes.
Okay, and you noted that the adjacent properties are commercial in nature.
Yeah.
And we've got these two parking lot locations, and that's the limit, that's the area under consideration, at least for tonight. Okay.
Have there been any complaints, issues with these lights thus far?
No, none that we've received.
So how was it found?
We were out doing kind of our punch list items, final checklist stuff, looking
Yeah.
at landscaping and lighting, and said, we think that's too high. Yeah, it's too high.
I want to know who climbed up the pole and measured it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Some of us don't do heights.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions for staff on this?
No, and we have the applicant here if you've
Okay.
got any questions
The
as well.
applicant like to come forward and present your case, please?
Good evening. My name is Bob Herr. I'm with Pinnacle's Corporate Design and Construction Group, and I'm representing Belterra Park here this evening. I really have nothing further to add than what's been represented in the variance request, but I'm available for questions and anything else I do. Obviously, we support the variance request.
Okay, who has a question for Mr. Herr? besides me.
Go ahead.
Ready for me? Well, can you walk us through these plans? That would be helpful for me, and tell us a little bit what you're trying to demonstrate to us with these plans.
Well, let me take a look at it.
With the photometric.
Here we go. If you're not familiar with the plans, you don't have to. I thought you would be familiar. That's okay. That's all right.
Basically, what the photometrics do is show the amount of output down at the surface of the parking lot for whatever pole height and fixtures being used. And that helps dictate, at least to us with our design, that we have adequate lighting across our parking lots for safety, for travel, for, you know, all the things that you need during nighttime visits from the consumer.
Okay, great. And let's see here. I'm looking for, and I'm not seeing it, the actual design of the light fixture. Do we have that?
We've got, kind of on the front page, that matrix at the top gives you the pole height of each,
Yep.
but not like a cut sheet of
Well, what
the-
I was wondering is the light design a flat lens, light design down directly?
Yes,
That's
it's like
kinda
a
what I'm-
shoebox design, they call it.
Yes, uh-huh. Okay, that's kind of the impression I got from the drawing, but I wasn't sure. So
Yeah,
that,
so all of the light within the fixture goes down, it doesn't go out sideways or upwards.
right, okay. And then I'm looking at the photometric sheet, and am I reading it correctly that it's showing 0-foot candles at the property line? I see a bunch of zeros out here.
Yes.
Okay. And I see zeros all, so basically, am I correct? I'm seeing zeros all along the property. Okay, great.
There are some that are greater than 0, but they're .1, .1, .3, .4, .4 foot candles. I mean, I'm really concerned more, you know, more along Kellogg Avenue than, but I don't think I've seen anything greater than a foot candle. Which is pretty low. See, we get out to maybe .3, .2,
Yeah.
or something like that.
And that appears to be on the south side of Kellogg Avenue where you're seeing those.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Mr. Herr while he's up here? Can't see, I'm guessing no.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. If we have more questions, we might have you come back up in a moment, okay?
Very good, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, that was the applicant. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak for this application? Is there anybody that'd like to speak against the application? Okay, all right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, then, if the board's okay with that. We'll close the public hearing. And then, just for the audience information, what the board typically does, and we have two cases tonight, is we will accept the evidence on the case and the report by staff on that. And then once that's done, the public hearing's closed, and we'll move on to the next case. So then after that, and we have two cases tonight, so you just heard the first one. After we get done with the second one and close, assuming we close the public hearing on that, then what we'll do is come back to the first case, we'll have our discussion and do a straw vote, tentative vote on it, and then we'll get into the second case too. So that's what we'll do, and so we will go ahead and start with the next case on the agenda tonight, case 14-2014 BZA. Allison, could you give us
Sure.
the background?
Yeah, the
Thanks.
applicant for this is the Eileys. It's 7298 Tree Ridge Drive and zoned A residence. And the request tonight is for a variance from section 68.1 and 68.4 of the zoning resolution. And this is to allow a garage addition to be located with a front yard setback of 40 feet where 50 feet is required. And that's from section 68.1, and then as well as at a location with a distance of 75 feet at the building line, or 100 feet is required. So we've got a location map of that property, and as you can see, it is a panhandle lot. The tract is approximately 3.009 acres and has 20 feet of frontage on Tree Ridge Drive, and that is that panhandle there. There's a decrease in grade from south to north, and the existing use is a single-family home. As you can see, the surrounding zoning on all of the properties is also a residence. That should be noted that this property here to the rear is township green space. The other surrounding uses are single-family residences. We've got an aerial of the site. The applicant is proposing to construct a garage addition, as you can see here, within that front yard setback, to tie in with the existing architectural style of the residence. And kind of a history of the site, the home was constructed in 1987. Township zoning did not go into place until 1988, so we do not have any other zoning information or original building plans on file for this property. And what I've done is include kind of a topographic map for you all if you have questions later, as well as the site plan, kind of a zoomed-in version of a site plan. And then I marked one up so we can kind of demonstrate here that this is the location of the proposed garage addition in blue, and then you can see the two variances being requested this evening. The width of the lot at that building line is noted in red here. And the setback, we measure on panhandle lots from the end of the panhandle portion is not included, so that would be that 40-foot setback there. Okay, go back to the unmarked up one for your consideration. So in reviewing this, the subject property is a panhandle lot, and since we do not include that, the garage addition is located approximately a distance of 140 feet from the right-of-way of Tree Ridge. However, the setback being requested from the end of the panhandle is 40 feet, where it's 50 feet is the required. Staff found that the essential character of the neighborhood would not be altered and adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Existing homes on Tree Ridge have a mixture of both side and front entry garages. The applicant is proposing to add side entry garage and has presented some elevation drawings showing it blending with the current architecture of the home. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. The applicant has indicated that the location of utilities is within the side yard area, and the property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. The subject property has a very limited buildable area due to the location of existing utilities as well as the topography of the rear yard, and it would be difficult to locate a detached structure within the rear yard due to the slope. We've got a few photos within the PowerPoint, and you've got two packets in front of you that include photos taken by the property owner and applicant, as well as photos from an adjacent property owner, and there's some information there to review as well.
Okay. I might propose, before we get into questions, I've got a fairly thick packet here sitting on my desk. Who is this from?
That is from the adjoining owner.
From the adjoining owner. So why don't we take, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a few minutes and maybe page through this and see what they've given us here, and then maybe we can ask some questions. Does that sound good? Okay, thanks. Thank you. Now, is this one from, Allison, is this one from the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. When everybody's ready to hear from staff on this, just let me know, okay? We can start. Allison, while they're still looking, do you have a, I don't think we have a, do we have an aerial shot of this? There we go, okay.
I can go whenever.
Everybody good? Ready? Allison, could you go ahead then and give us your report? Ready? Did you give it?
Yeah.
You gave it to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
What, more?
Okay, give it- Thank you. Thanks for that extra moment.
Sure.
Okay, well then, let's go ahead and have the applicant come forward and give us their presentation.
Thank you.
Could you just give your name and address, please?
Yes, so my name is Rick Illy. We live at 7298 Tree Ridge Drive, and we are the applicant tonight. The information that you saw, I think, sums up the case really well. The house is 27 years old, and It's off of Tree Ridge Drive at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's a very well-established neighborhood, as you know. It is a challenging sloped lot, really from the front to the back, which, as Allison said, is north, kind of south to north. There's real utilities on both sides, and with the right side having some sewage ejection lines, there's quite a bit going on the right side. It is a panhandle lot, and really from the road, from the street, you can see maybe the roof line of the house, but you really can't see much of the house from the street. You have to really get to the driveway to see the house because it sets down. The appeal to the lot for us was the 3 acres with a lot of woods, in the back. So the back is heavily wooded. It is sloped heavily, but it is heavily wooded, and it looks beautiful. It's really a beautiful lot. So we have been looking at adding a 3rd-car garage for the family, and it's one of those things where we've looked at a lot of different alternatives, and we keep coming back to this one in the front, which we initially didn't even consider in the front, but the way it worked out in the front, in the flat spot of the lot, which is really the flattest part of the lot, worked out to be really the least obtrusive and probably the most aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood. So we did spend a fair amount of time on that, and it looks, it makes the house look more aesthetically pleasing than it does today. It's an older home, and it is fairly plain looking, and what we've done through the help of our architect, who we think did a fabulous job, really makes the house look much better than it does today. So we did meet with the surrounding neighbors and had very positive feedback. We have one neighbor next to us who kind of later in the process we had some concerns there, so we met with them and we tried to work things out. And so we are trying to go through that process of trying to make things aesthetically pleasing for them as well. I think the neighborhood itself is, there's a lot of cars in the street. There's a lot of 2-car garages, and so there's cars everywhere. There's a lot of cars in driveways. The challenge for us is really when we pull in the driveway, we have to back out to get out, and when you're backing uphill, the rear end of your car is in the air, so you can't really see what's behind you by the time you get to the street. And the challenge that we see is, with the cars parked there, there's kids playing there. We're aware of a special needs child that rides bikes in the street. There's a lot of people walking. My wife became concerned one day when she was backing up the hill and almost hit a walker. I mean, you really have to watch when you're backing up backwards up the hill. So it is a little concerning. So we are concerned for safety as one of the things. The other thing, as I mentioned, we're trying to improve the image of the home, which we do think will help the neighborhood. And then with all the cars parked on the street, we have 2 teenagers also, and we also have a classic car, and so rather than our driveway looking like a used car lot, we would, like to house some of the cars to improve the view and not have to add to what's parked on the street and so forth. As I mentioned, we looked at other locations. They all led us back to really the same plan. Seems to be the only one that works. We went back to our architect after other conversations with our neighbors and so forth, and so we tried to do some other things, including maybe a front-load garage, which could save a few feet, but the house is really not that wide, and if we were to put a front-load garage kind of in front of where the laundry room is, it would be the kitchen window, the front door, and then a single-car garage, a 2-car garage facing you, so it would be like a house of garages. And so it didn't seem feasibly possible to do that aesthetically, and then there's roof line issues and trying to do a front-load garage. So we kept coming back to this plan as really the plan that is the one that works, and so we're trying to do what we can to make the plan work. I would say, since we had some concerns, we did meet with a landscaper, a professional landscaper, and we have a proposed landscaping plan from him that we just got today. So we are trying to do what we can to address some of the concerns. We know the original plan had a lot of concrete on it, and he's suggesting there may be ways that we could do adding trees or shrubs or some things between the driveway and the neighbor's house to make it more, put a screen of evergreens in there so there's no limited view of the garage, if you will, which we think will help tremendously. Also, they're suggesting that maybe we don't have to have as much concrete, and I think the original plan showed it all the way to 2 feet. We may not have to go with as much concrete, and until our architect gets a chance to look at that, we don't know the details, but we do think there's ways that we can improve the view, which we really want to do to make things work. The other thing that we, I guess, want to make sure we mention was with respect to obstruction of views. We have about 5 windows in our house that look on our neighbor's house on the right, and we keep the windows closed. We don't the trees aren't going to help our view in any way of that side of the house. It's really, the landscaping plan would be to help the garage image for the neighbors. We do have all of the excavating in this scenario will be on our property, and it's really around the flat area where the garage would be put in, so we're not anticipating other drainage issues or anything. When we bought the home, we didn't have any disclosure of drainage issues or anything like that, so we think the excavation will be fairly limited to the garage. The driveway will have some excavation, obviously, as it gets a little further to the right, but we feel like that can all be very well managed, and according to our architect and landscaper, we think that can be managed. I don't really have any other comments. I mean, like Allison said, we feel like it's, we agree with what was presented so far, and we feel like we're doing what we can to try to make things work.
Great, thank you. Who's got, is there any questions for Mr. Ely?
When I was out there the other day, I did notice that there was this plan for this curve along the new driveway. Is that going to be raised? It's going to go to grade? The grass going to come to grade? I thought that was kind of unusual. That might be a challenge.
Did you see the blue flags, or I'm not sure what you were seeing?
I was looking at the drawings, and it says there's a curve along the edge of the driveway, and is that going to...
Yeah, the driveway today is curved. If you go back one to the blacktop, it's curved going down. So when we're backing up, we're actually backing up and turning at the same time. Yeah, you can see it there in the big picture. So we have to back out and kind of turn left today. There is a electric utility box in between the properties there that, we have teenagers. Again, we're a little concerned about that, but it hasn't been an issue. But from there, going directly back into the woods is the property line. But the original plan that you had up there with the concrete, yeah, you can see where the electrical box is, kind of right there. So what I'm suggesting is, from the architect, is if you look at how long that driveway is along the property line there, I think that's some of the concern, is how much concrete would be there. And so we would flatten it out where the garage is. Everything else up top, I'm not sure if it would have to be torn up. It doesn't seem like that would have to be torn up, but we might not have to go as close to the property line based on what the landscaper is suggesting, and so we will try not to. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, but I'm looking at the page, sheet 3 of 5, on what you submitted. It says there's a 6-inch high, this was difficult to read, a 6-inch high curve that looks like it's following the line, the driveway. And then if you go to the rear, I think it looks in that one side illustration, going to have maybe a foot as you come out of a new garage, new proposed garage.
Yeah, so there's like a turnaround pad there.
Is that what that's for?
Yeah, it's basically a turnaround pad, and again, we're not sure how big that has to be, and we will try to keep it off the, within our boundary of where it's supposed to be, obviously, but he was showing a kind of almost a retaining wall at the edge of it because of the slope. We could not have a retaining wall, but it wouldn't be as is attractive to us, I think, is having something there to keep it flat and to be more usable, if you will. There is, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah. It's curved, it's squared on the picture that you see there of the actual plans.
Yeah, and what about drainage? I saw that there was a couple catch basins existing. Are they gonna, do those just go into the ground, or?
Yeah, there's one along the side of that, well, the driveway has two,
Currently, I think.
yeah, two drain things to catch water because it all comes straight down. And so the driveway will continue to have at least those two. And then along the side of the house, we have some rocks that were laid there from the previous owners. That it's like a trench that goes along the side of the house, on the right side of the house, that drains out to the back of the property. And I believe the driveway, the two drains in the driveway also go along the right side to drain out to the back of the property.
And the whole driveway, new drive is planned to be concrete?
Down where the garage is, yeah, yeah.
Definitely a challenging site with the location of the utilities, the sewer and water lines. I saw the water meter, then I also saw your pump system on the side.
Yes.
It looks like your sewer line, according to the site plan that was submitted, must have been one that you, or wasn't from your architect. It says the sewer line is off to about where the new garage is. I'm a little confused.
Well, the sewer line, I don't know if you have a picture of that square thing that was in the grass.
Right.
So there's a sewage tank down there, and the line actually runs up the side of the house and across the driveway.
Oh.
It goes across the driveway and then up. And so it's kind of hard to miss, and our current driveway is,
Right, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw the picture, and well, it says it's here, and what's that doing over there? Interesting. Okay.
yes. Yeah, I believe it's on the right side of the street when it gets up top, but it's on the, or the left side of the street when it gets up top, staring at the house, and the right side of the house, so.
Interesting. Okay. Explains that. Okay.
Any other questions? No questions. What were, Mr. Ely, what were some of the other options you looked at? You said you looked at some other options. What were they?
Well, we looked at the right side, and that one was probably the most problematic because of the utilities and the sewage tank and all that stuff there. If we were to hold it up front, at the front of the house, like a normal house would have, the three-car garage kind of lined up together, we would actually be, we would need a variance to go closer to our neighbors, and we, even when talking with them, we don't want to impede, closer. So when the architect came back with this thing in the middle of the yard, we're like, wow, that's a great idea. And we hadn't even thought about it or considered it, so we were somewhat excited about it. The left side of the house also has a bunch of utilities over there. We're actually closer to the neighbors on the left than we are the right. And you would have to have a driveway going, two different directions on your lot, and it would go to the left. And that wasn't, aesthetically pleasing. And then the other option would be to put a very long driveway all the way into the back, which, again, won't be aesthetically pleasing to the neighbors, and we really don't want to go into the back, into the woods, and tear down the beauty of the lot, to put a garage. So I don't think that would be, a detached structure is not going to be as, valuable as something like what's been proposed by our architect. So those were the other options. The other one was to try to have a front-load garage just squeezed in, like, where the laundry room is to the left of the current garage. And And as I mentioned earlier, that one, you'd almost have a house of garages from your street view. You'd have 3 car garages and 1 kitchen window, and that's what the house would look like, and it really wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing. Plus, we have roof line issues, and if we did a front-load garage there, we have excavation issues, because you'd have to also dig deeper to flatten it out to get into the garage, as opposed to the side garage where everything's flat. We can just kind of pull in and back out, and it's easier on the excavation side, so less disruption, if you will.
And that's the new driveway that goes along the property line there, and it shows that there's actually a curb that Ms. Bechtold was referring to along the length of it, correct? A 6-inch typical curb?
Along the edge of the property line there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
along the existing and the new driveway, I guess, it'll be put in.
Yeah.
How's the water flow around there?
Well, like I said, we haven't had a problem. We didn't have any disclosure when we bought the home, and so we haven't had anything major happen related to drainage. We've got the 2 drains in the driveway and the one along the right side of the house, and it seems...
Yeah. What I was wondering, though, is relative to this lot that's over here,
Yep.
now there's going to be kind of just a low wall there, if you will, the curb. Is there water flow that comes across that way?
Across our driveway?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think our drive is fairly straight down, if you will, and I think the drains catch it. I'm not sure that there's water going
From the side?
from the side.
From the-
I think the drainage issues, the house next to us has another house next to them, and they're elevated compared to where they are. I think there's a lot of issues from the right side of them coming down, but we haven't had drainage issues on our side, and like I said, there was nothing disclosed for us,
Okay.
and we haven't seen any issues since we've been there, or heard of any issues since we've been there.
Now, the design of this, I'm trying to get it a little bit. I'm looking at this picture. It's got the,
Okay?
looks like a stone facade on the new garage portion.
Yes,
So is that, and then I see half of the old garage.
yes.
Is the old garage going to remain a 2-car garage, and this is a single-car garage?
Well, actually, that's what's interesting. The old garage is a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
And it will become a single door. And then the
Right.
new garage will be a double door, so it's actually a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we didn't have room to go further left to protect the current 2-car garage, because then we'd be in front of our front door.
Right.
And so we're basically converting the one to a single bay and the other one to a double bay.
Yeah. And then on the next page, I'm looking at it, I guess what I see, a 2-car garage there then is the new garage, right?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see it sticks out from the front of the house.
Mhm.
And then the stone is meant to add some, interest to it.
Yeah, it
and
breaks it up a little bit.
Modernize it a bit, as opposed to the flat siding that's on there.
Okay, that helps me understand. Any other questions, Mr. Haber?
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned regarding the reason for your variance was safety in backing up your driveway. And I'm looking at the architectural drawings that you submitted, and it looks like there is a datum elevation of 500.4 where your driveway starts from the existing driveway the common area, 500, all the way down to 485 down at the garage. So there's a 15-foot elevation difference.
Yes. Yeah, and right where
And
the,
I'm trying to picture these pictures together, and I don't see it.
the slope,
Yeah.
well, there's probably one that has some, I don't know what all pictures are, that you have there, but there's probably one that shows the slope a little better, but yeah, it's 16, 17 feet slope.
So are we going from this point right here?
Yeah, that's where, I believe that's where the panhandle ends.
That's where the common panhandle ends.
Correct.
Is that where the 500 is, and then you're starting on down the slope? Because I don't see the 15 feet difference between this point out here and the front of the house.
Yeah, you might not be able to tell it from that picture. I don't know if we have a picture. I know we have a picture of the flat part.
Yeah, see, this picture right here says is that where your concrete ends and the bituminous concrete of the common drive starts is that datum elevation is 500, and then at your garage is 484, 485, and there's 15 feet difference between those two.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm seeing right here?
Yeah, that's what it's showing.
You don't see that either.
No, and even when I was out there was more of a slope down towards where the septic.
Maybe from the
Yeah, I don't know if there's a better.
road itself to the garage, but not from your point is from where
Right.
they're,
Which
the
is what,
common driveway.
yeah, which is what these, I mean, I'm trying to understand if there's a real safety concern or not, and this driveway slope looks a heck of a lot steeper than what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, there's a lot of steepness to the blacktop part. I don't know if we have a better picture. You can get a sense for the slope with that lower right photo there.
Yeah, but that's on down,
Yeah, it's further down. I don't know if
that's on
there's.
down the side of the house as it slopes. So I'm trying to verify
Is there a better
your
picture of the
concern about being able to back up. So when you back out of your garage, do you back up your driveway and then turn around in that circle right there, or are you backing all the way out to Tree Ridge?
We're backing all the way out to Tree Ridge.
Okay.
There's one of the neighbor's photos.
Right,
kinda
I've been
shows it.
looking at all
Yeah,
that,
there's-
and I just don't see the slope.
Yeah, there's not really a circle there. It's a little wider on that one side, but it's not really a large circle.
I don't see the 15 feet difference between
Is there another
where your
picture that
driveway,
shows
where
the
your
concrete?
concrete
Is there a
starts
picture?
and down
Is
at
there
your
a picture that
garage.
shows the concrete?
Even if you look at, even if
I
you
think
look at where the
page 2 in the packet of photos, it looks like it is from kind of the right-of-way cul-de-sac area through the shared driveway to the individual driveway and garage.
So Allison, if I understand you correctly, what you may be saying is that the 500
I think the
datum
500
elevation
is
goes
at-
all the way back out
I
to
think
Tree
so.
Ridge.
street, not.
That's what there's a view kind of taken from that cul-de-sac of the home, and that's what
I mean, I think that's a real genuine
Looks like.
concern, that if you are backing up and can't see, I mean, I totally understand that as a safety issue, but I'm trying to verify that. That's
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, I mean, when we back all the way to Tree Ridge, it's definitely the rear end of your car is a lot higher than the road, because it's very steep at the top of the hill, which I don't know, we might not have a picture of that, but the top of the blacktop is very steep.
Well, yeah, this section I just don't see. This section I just don't see, given the pictures that we have. I don't see this kind of slope.
I agree.
Well, there is,
Because that would match that right there.
Right, where this.
there's,
Yeah.
page 4, if you look at the top of page 4 of this handout, there is a bit of a picture of the slope there. I don't know if you saw that one. There's,
Oh, I've got so much stuff up here, I forgot, I apologize. Okay, this goes with that.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
If you look there, you can see, gives a little bit of a,
Alice, can you put the topo from Cage's on me? That'd be helpful.
Oh, that would be big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I think it evens out.
Are those foot contours or 2, Allison? 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going up 6 feet then to the end of their driveway, to the common driveway.
Yeah, it's much more sloped at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's really one of the reasons for the garage in front, from the architect's perspective, was it's flatter right in front of the house than it is really anywhere else, the sides or out back.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? No more questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to speak in favor of the application? Who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, come on up and give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Dold. I live at 7299 Tree Ridge Drive, which is adjacent to 7298. And we are here in opposition to the 3 parts of this construction, which would be the addition of a 2-car garage, the expansion of the driveway, and then an addition of a turnaround.
I'm Tim Dold. This is my wife, Patty.
You've had the opportunity just now, I think, to read our letter, so I don't want to go through the entire letter, but I do want to emphasize 3 very important things in our opposition. We are very, very close to 7298. We share the same issues with our driveway as we back out of our garage, and instead of backing all the way up into Tree Ridge and taking that slope backwards, we actually turn slightly into their driveway and we pull out. And that is what we have been doing for 20 years since we have lived there. But let me just cover the 3 points that are our 3 main points. First of all, a 2-car garage, in addition to the current garage that they have, will come 5 feet further, if it's my understanding on the architect's plans. It will come 5 feet further into their current driveway, and a 2-car garage will now face directly in front of our home. Our front lot, if Allison, if you would, please put up, if you could put the original where it actually shows the 2 lots together. Our front yard is actually a very small triangular landscaped lot on a very sloping and negative grade. Our driveway, probably in this debate earlier of the grade level that it goes down into our garage, is a little greater than 7298's. So with that garage being directly in front of our house, we see that as an obstruction of views and the privacy and seclusion of our lot. Cars will be driving in and out and turning around on the turnaround pad with lights shining directly into approximately 22 glassed windows on the front and side of our home. The second is that, yes, we have had water runoff. We have been dealing with this for a very long period of time, to the tune of over $60,000 in landscaping to do dry creek beds, drains, runoff pools around our home. As of May of this year, April or May of this year, I even contacted Anderson Township to say we have a huge problem with water runoff coming down the Eastman and running directly down into our garage, halfway into our garage. Our landscaper has been contacted again, and he's back at it, trying to figure out what we can do. At that time, in May, April or May, the previous property owners were the ones that alerted us that there was water running down 7298's driveway because of this runoff that came off the hillside. And from that moment, we were in complete research of trying to figure out why that happened. We never got to resolve it. We're resolving ours. The other is, so that's our second point, very serious water runoff concerns. When you excavate to that level and you add a concrete pad and expand that driveway and you regrade, you are taking away the grass, the sod, the soil, in which normally rainwater will absorb. So we have a very serious concern to where that water will go, particularly when that driveway looks as if it's going to be raised up. And also on that pad, I don't even know how many feet that is, but it's going to raise even higher in that back elevation on the one plan that you see to the side, where you see their new two-car garage facing. That pad is like this high. So that water, though they are draining out the back and doing draining along the side of their garage, we have a serious concern of where that water on that concrete pad will run down. And our yard is right there and landscaped. In addition to that, the third part of this is the trees. We have, again, put in quite a bit in terms of keeping our urban forestry. We've been devastated by the emerald ash borer. We've lost more than 23 trees, large trees, along the side and back of our home. We've replanted 2 trees in our very small front yard for the purpose of keeping erosion down. And so to add then another large concrete pad right in front of us is an issue. The lights shining into those windows. I recognize that the Illies had stated that they're looking at some landscaping to try to barrier that type of thing. But when you put a 2-car garage directly in front of us, you've got a hillside to the left of us, our home facing this garage. The noise level, because we're literally in a valley, as you can see, because we're coming down that big slope driveway, we're in a valley. The noise level from cars going in and out, and this 2-car garage will not accommodate all of their cars. It will only accommodate their antique car, their 2 cars, and then they have 1 or 2 other cars and drivers. And from my understanding in the zoning code, if you take the property line to 2 feet and you add a concrete pad or driveway, you cannot park other cars on that driveway or pad. So where would the other cars go? And that was my understanding from pursuing this week. If you have a 3-foot setback, you can. But if you have a 2-foot setback, which was what I was advised by the architect's plans, no other car could park there. And to the safety issue of that, when you have icy conditions, as we do in our driveway currently, if you bring a car down onto that pad and you don't have a barrier or a fence or some kind of a buffer, that car could easily slide off that pad that's raised up this high, and I don't see that as safety. We have been able to manage getting in and out of our driveway for 20 years in a much steeper grade than 7298.
I would like to make the point that the aesthetics are very, very important to us. I'm not sure what pictures you're looking at. or how you're perceiving them. But the corner of our house is the living room. And that's primarily where most of the windows are. And from that living room, our immediate view will be of this garage. You can see what it looks like now. It's beautiful between the two homes. We'd like to see it remain that way.
One other concern that we have is that in the process of construction, if you remove the current driveway to expand and add, there will be no availability of cars to park there. Their cars would have to go elsewhere. And the easement is not a location to park cars. That is, as you may know, I put the attachment in there for you. That is only for the purpose of maintenance, if you have sewer line or water line or electric or what have you. So where will those cars go? And if they do use that easement for cement trucks or what have you, you have cut off our only access of getting out of there. And that happened this summer when they did internal work to their home, and I guess not knowing, there were 7 or 8 trucks lined up and down, and I had to back out of my driveway, all the way from inside my driveway, backwards, make the big curve, and go all the way to the top with their fabulous crew who was directing me out. That's the only time I ever had backed out from the nose of my inside garage all the way to the top, because you are able to turn around and go out.
So you are able to back out of your driveway
Yes.
To the beginning of that common area, turn around there, and then head forward out the rest of the common driveway.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the previous neighbors to 7298 did the same thing by coming back into our driveway and going in.
Right.
Yes.
And you don't have any problem with that?
Right, not one.
Where was this picture taken?
That picture was taken actually from our loft.
From the loft above these windows? Is
Yes,
that?
I'll show you here.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how it's all situated.
Yes. This is actually from, let's see. This is from our loft, which is a common living area. It's where we have, it is where we have large television and living room area. And this would be looking directly down at a garage that will come here,
Right.
5 feet into here, and that garage will be right there with light shining into the front.
Can you point that a little, I didn't see, I could,
Sure.
okay, so that's looking out your window, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If you look at the front of our house, there's a big picture of the front of our house.
Yeah, that's-
It
oh,
shows
here it
the
is.
full view of it. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's the loft, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
This is actually.
Actually, if you just would stand at the right at the corner and kind of face that down the road there, that would be perfect. Yep, thank you.
This is a bedroom.
Right.
Okay. This is a loft, and in the loft on the other side here, which you can't see, there are 4 very large windows. This is our living room, which also
Okay.
has 4 windows, and on the other side of that, there are 2 other large windows. Bedroom windows on the other side of this wall, and this is a large window that goes into our dining, it shines into our dining room. If you are standing on our front porch, which right there, if you're on the corner of our front porch, and some of these pictures are actually taken from the porch and the living room, we will literally be facing the 2-car garage and the turnaround. And Tim, how many feet did you measure? And this would be approximate.
To the edge of the driveway, 33 feet.
It's only 33 feet for those lights to be shining, and
Well, along that same vein, those are the 4 windows.
Yes.
And this picture is included for what reason?
The reason I did that is because it was hard for me to angle the front and try to get those because they kind of sit under a soffit. But that is in our loft, so even if they turn around, because it's the side of the house, if they take a car and pull down on that turnaround, which angles this way, those lights are going to be shining in that area of our home.
And that's why this picture is included as well?
Yeah, because that's the loft.
Right.
This is also an open area to a bedroom, so if the lights are shining in the front, it shines like all the way through the house.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks. Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question? On this
Yes.
piece of paper, it says that the garage is 22 by 29 feet, but
It's
I
25.
thought it was 22 by 25.
It is.
I'm sorry?
It
She's-
is, it's
she
22
said
by
it is.
25.
Is that a typo or something?
Okay, so it's 25? Okay.
Okay. So I was looking at those pictures, and this one is really helpful, but I can't get a grip on which way the water flows. I'm just killing
Yeah.
myself trying to figure out which way the water flows, because I drove out there, and I know from the road that you are up and looking down at the homes. But from this picture, it looks like it's a very nice flat lot, and I know that's not the case. And what I can't get a grip on, maybe you can help me, is in the, Ely's proposed driveway would be over here somewhere, correct? So where does water come? Is it coming this way towards your house? Is it just coming down the middle and flowing downward? Where's the water going?
I actually took a video. I don't get it here. But I have a video that actually shows the water running down. There's the people on the other side of us have a hillside that comes down like this, but our easement comes down between their front yard, cuts through down, and our driveway goes like this, their driveway goes like this. That water was running down off that hillside, came down along the easement, almost at the corner of the easement, and ran down our driveway, and it was like gushing. I mean, that's when I called Anderson Township and said, we put in so much work, drainage-wise, what have you, but I did get a video of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So it tended to flow down the hard surface to your garage, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Huh.
And
Okay.
that would be in the heaviest of rain, you know.
Now, when you're talking, you can go ahead and go back to the podium, thank you. When you're talking about turning around, and I did see the information on the shared easement, but when you turn around, are you backing onto, and I guess vice versa, are you actually driving onto the other person's driveway that's not part of the easement and it's just been neighborly courtesy, or is it part of the easement?
Part of it's neighborly courtesy. Most of the time, you're really only going right to the part where the blacktop ends. You know, you can
Right.
really pull all the way almost across to where the blacktop is and be able to make it out without going all the way down even a big portion of their driveway.
Right,
Back out with an F-150 pickup
okay.
and never have any trouble.
So if that curbing was up along the proposed new driveway, that's not going to start until the blacktop area, is it?
The curving that they're going to do around there?
Yes.
That,
Will that interfere with that movement?
well, I'm not...
Not sure.
I'm not familiar enough to know the architect's plans for that, but
Okay.
really, the
that's-
expansion that I see for them is their expansion to bring it down, go into the turnaround, be able to actually pull out of their driveway and go this. It really is not going to affect up where that easement meets our driveway or the top of their driveway at all.
Okay, I didn't think it would, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts were. So if the garage goes there and you're looking out, so right now when you look out, you see what? The neighbor's front yard,
Yeah, and
right?
actually, I have a photo, there's photos in there of that.
Yeah, I saw those.
But from our front porch, you can see across their front yard, you can actually see to the west,
Like
which
this.
has a view.
This is an example,
That's an example.
for example.
yes.
There's better pictures.
Okay.
But the garage will come out 22 feet from the current front. And
Now,
5 feet
if they
forward.
pull into that garage, the front of the car will be away from your home, correct? It'll be going into the garage, right?
When they, if they pull down, and then they go like this to
And they
back
just
into
turn in the new garage.
Mhm, if
You'll
they
see their
turn-
taillights, right?
You see the taillights or the headlights, depending on whether or not they use that turnaround to put themselves facing forward to just pull out.
Oh, okay, right.
Because that is a problem if,
Well, that's what I was wondering, because if they pull in and then they back out, I'm not sure you're going to see headlights, but you're thinking they might, we don't know, they could back in.
Right.
Is
they
that
could
what you're
back
saying?
in, to make it easier to pull out and go straight out.
Yeah, I guess so. I got a couple of follow-up questions for you, Allison, on, but I'll ask for Mrs. Dolt said. I don't have, does anybody else have any questions?
I have one. So you
Mr.
mentioned here in point 3 that it negatively affects the ecological and urban forest aesthetic, and talks about a grass lawn. I guess unless I'm missing something, how much lawn are they really losing with this garage? I don't think there's much, right?
Well, actually,
Unless I'm missing something.
there is quite a bit that will be, because right now, the way it is, there's a grassy part that comes from the utility box, as you see it, and it will come down, and that's all grass, and it's actually right along that edge, which then becomes our property. Our property then goes like this, and then slopes downward toward our house. So if you take that little patch of grass, whether it be 3 or 4 feet, and that's just an estimate on my part, if you take that away and you put a concrete pad there, then that water could be coming off of that and coming down into our front yard. And there are trees there, mature trees, that according to the Green Space Advisory at Anderson Township said, any tree on the drip line could in fact be damaged or completely destroyed because a concrete pad placed over that drip line could destroy the root system. One of those very large mature trees leans toward our house. Another tree has been, those trees have been here forever. So again, we're trying to keep green, we're trying to keep grass, roots, shrubs, trees. They're natural barriers for sound and natural barriers and natural resources for rain to retain and bring it down into the ground instead of it running off of a concrete pad.
Now, if they put a forget about the garage in the front, because we heard some testimony that there are some other options looked at, including around the back. Now, if instead of putting if the garage wasn't in front, then we'd take care of the view problems.
Right?
What about, would that alleviate all the problems if they just ran a driveway around the back and had some kind of detached garage in back, from your perspective? You'd still have that driving along the side yard that maybe isn't there today.
Well, and to answer that question, that was the first option that they considered when we met them, that to put the garage in the back or on the side. But if you do that, if you're coming up that side, it poses a problem for them for utilities, but it also posed the problem that You're not, again, it goes to not backing out of there. You're going to come out of there headlights forward. And with such a small space between, we are going to get headlights in that regard.
In fact, you'd get headlights every time, wouldn't you?
We would, because they would be forward pulling out. The other option of being on the front of the house, which was something we discussed with them, even though aesthetically it may not be as nice, if you put a one-car garage attached to the current garage between their front door and the current garage, and you face it forward, those lights aren't shining in anybody's view, and not only that, they're able to pull straight out with their headlights forward and not bother anybody, with less the need to put a concrete driveway from the new garage to come right along in their front yard and meet the current driveway. Not a need for an expansion or a turnaround. There'd be no need for a turnaround.
Okay. Is there any other questions for the Dolts right now?
Not right now.
Okay.
So
One more.
I do want to paraphrase what I think I just heard you say, which was, you would accept a single-car garage attached to the front of the house
Correct.
with the garage door facing the turnaround and not on the side of the addition.
I would accept a one-car garage attached to the current two-car garage facing forward as the current two-car garage does.
Okay, so if you're looking at the front of the house and you see the current two-car garage, you would put you would be okay with a single-car garage then to the right of that?
Yes, if you're.
But we talked about utilities
Yes,
as
right,
being,
the right.
but we talked about utilities being a challenge.
Well, it would actually be between, if you have a drawing of, if you go back to their original house, the first slide that was shown, it shows the house as it is right now. It was the actual photograph of it. There it is, right there.
Okay.
There's their current two-car garage.
Right.
Okay? Right next to that is a little egress or something that goes back to their laundry room. That was going to go away anyway because they were going to be putting the two-car garage the other way facing us. But if you put a one-car garage there between their front door and that two-car garage, it's also going to face forward, and you could actually adjoin a new, smaller version of the driveway to adjoin the current driveway, and they're driving straight out forward with no headlights in any neighbor's view.
So if you put a garage out in the front, which would be 22 by 16 feet or something like that, then your number one obstruction of views, you would be okay with it because it is going to obstruct your views.
It will, but not to the extent that this would, because it's not 22 feet.
Okay.
This is 22 feet of obstruction compared to what, I don't know what that would be. And given that that part of their house actually goes back several feet, it goes back 3 or 4 feet.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So who else would like to speak in opposition to the application? Yes, sir? Come on up and give us your, I'm sorry, come up and give us your name and address, please.
Okay, thank you. First one. My name is Richard Hurte. I live at 6911 Merlin Court, which is a very long way from their home, but I am an adjacent property owner. I have a very large, long lot, very heavily. If you look at that little angle, about 45 degrees, a very small one.
Where she's pointing?
Yeah, it's the smallest area there, the smallest intersection of the lots.
So right on the corner where the point is there?
Yeah, that whole line there
Okay.
is my property. The lot's about 400 and some odd feet deep. We also have a erosion runoff problem, and I'm not sure if this was exacerbated or not, but hard rains, hard snow, we've had significant erosion, loss of trees, improper drainage, I think, in the neighborhood. And that's probably one of my main issues. We do enjoy a huge green space back there. I tell my friends we have about 2 acres, but we enjoy 50 acres because of the township and so forth. Try to maintain that. Another issue aside of the aesthetics that I'm very concerned about, and maybe this is just vocalizing it, are major changes to setback measurements. We bought into treetops for the openness, for the setbacks from our neighbors. I would love personally to build a 2-car garage. I've got a couple antique muscle cars that I'd love to put in there. But it just doesn't fit in the context of what we enjoy as a neighborhood. And there is continued encroachment by many of these additions, and I just see that as something that can be avoided. And those are the extent of my comments.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any
So
questions?
you mentioned erosion as being a concern.
I cannot directly attribute it to their project, but it is major down there. We have a
And where's
we have
the-
a creek there now. We have rain or snow. We have a river,
Right.
and anything that would add to that, I have some issues with, and that's just my
So-
feelings on the topic. I do appreciate they probably didn't know I was an adjacent property owner, but I got this in the mail, and I said, gee, I want to have a look at it, and that's an area of concern. The other is just continued variances to the setback rules and regulations we have. They're originally stated in the covenants that we bought into the area. I think if you've driven around there, if you notice that, they're generous. There's spaces between neighbors, and that's important to maintain, in my opinion.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to speak on the case? We're in the opposition right now. Anybody else like to just speak in general on the case? Mr. Ely, would you like to come up and respond to some of the, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, would you like to come up?
I'm the architect.
Can you come up and,
He wasn't sworn.
He needs to be sworn in.
oh, did he come in late?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to swear you in first. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. And can you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, certainly. Larry Tokarski. I'm a state registered architect. I live at 5185 Overlook Drive in Mason, Ohio.
Okay. So you're not here in opposition, I don't think,
No.
correct?
No.
Before we get to you, is there anybody else in opposition? I know I asked that and then you raised your hand. Okay, doesn't look like there's any more. So why don't you go ahead and,
Sure.
Mr.
Maybe
Ely gave
to
us a
address
nice
a couple of the
presentation.
issues that were
Yeah, go
sort
ahead.
of brought up, and maybe answer some questions that you might have about how it was designed and maybe the intention and some of the considerations that were given to all of these issues. First of all, in regards to drainage, I was not aware of any issues, and there was nothing that we knew about any issues in regards to the current construction of the property. I will say that we do have a slope lot, and it is a little bit deceiving, some of the photographs, but we had a registered surveyor go out and take elevation shots from the road down to the entrance lip into the garage, and it is 15 feet. So we do have to handle that grade from that spot down into the lip of the existing garage. Now, The way now, I'm looking at the way the driveway was designed, the idea was to have 2 feet of landscape area off of the property line, and then a foot of retaining wall that would give you your 3 feet from the property line to the driveway, okay? So the pavement area would be that 3 feet off of the property line. Now, you mentioned a curb along that one side. In some areas, right off of, when you first get off of the blacktop area and you go into the driveway, we will have to cut a little bit to get down. So that means we will have to put some curbs on either side to hold the earth back, and we're actually digging out a little bit to come right off of that. So any water that comes down is actually going to come into that area rather than go away. Currently, you have a driveway that sits right on the grade. So if water is shedding from one area to another, it would shed and go off of the driveway. This is not going to happen on this driveway because it's going to contain it within that space. And we have to get down faster because the addition on the front is coming forward, which leads me to another thing. The idea of a front entry garage. If you consider the slope from the existing street down, it comes down that driveway and reaches the lowest point about 5 or 6 feet out in front of the current garage. That low point is going to have to go forward towards the street more, right? And the only way to do that is to increase the angle of the road coming down. And so if you put a front entry garage and you're trying to come out into that slope, it'll never work. You won't be able to get out of the garage, get flat, and then go up that 15 feet. You don't have enough room. So what we do is we go to the side first, and the way the garage was designed was that you come in and you belly out and you go into the garage this way. And to leave, you back up and you go out that way. So the headlights would never go towards the adjacent property. They would always go into the house, back up, and out that way, and they would have taillights for all of that property, okay? Regarding the actual drainage, there are 2 catch basins at the bottom of the existing driveway. We would maintain and hold on to those so that whatever water that's coming down the driveway, we would capture that and excavate it out towards the back of the property. It would never go onto any side property. Okay? So all of those issues, some of those issues that we were talking about, you know, at least you get an answer on some of those questions. Can you remember any of the other ones? I'm trying to pull these, I'm trying to address each one of them.
So you're going to keep the 2 inlets that are existing.
Right.
And where do those inlets go now?
As far as I know, they drain to daylight out to the back of the property.
So you're going to
If they-
create like a new channel, if you will. with
Out to the back.
curb.
Currently, there's a stone riprap around the right side of the property, and I'm not sure if it pops out. You can see a picture of the side of the property and how it goes down so
Yeah.
severely on the side of the property. So where it's captured in that catch basin and goes around the side, it connects into that stone riprap around the side of the house and drains down. Now, from where it goes there, I don't know. So we're trying to contain any, we never allow water to go from the existing property onto an adjoining property. We maintain all the water on the site.
Is there any water that you observed when you were out there looking at it that would come from the neighbors that would be
No.
blocked by this now raised driveway?
No, I could believe that water would shed from the existing easement or the existing right-of-way area, the public right-of-way, and come over the curb and start to come down to both of these properties. I could believe that. And honestly, that's the reason why you have a catch basin at the bottom of that driveway, at least on the Illy's property. I'm not sure, I don't know if you guys have that too, but if I were going after trying to solve that problem, I would be investigating getting a larger catch basin or something even along the side of the driveway, anything that you could do to capture water that's coming from the street. And as far as when they pull out and they turn and go out and use any part of the driveway, none of that would change. That would stay exactly the way it is. We don't modify any part of the driveway from the point where it joins together, the blacktop joins the concrete, back to the public way. All of the modifications happen on the Illy's property. Any other?
Yeah, so we hit on a couple things there that they were concerned about, which
Right.
was water and lights. But the third thing they have a big concern with is you're pushing out the front profile of that house.
Correct.
And they feel like that's encroaching on they felt that they have, I don't want to speak for them, but basically what I heard was there's this front yard setback.
Okay.
We have benefited because the neighbors and everybody is limited by this front yard setback. Now, they're asking for a variance, or it's being requested a front yard setback, and they have concern that that's basically going to encroach on their living environment.
Okay. We are asking for a variance from the 50 feet that's allowed by law to 40. Okay? So by law, if we wanted to add on something to the front of the house anyway, you could go out to that limit that's already allowed. What we're asking for is the additional 10 feet. And if you're looking at it from a view standpoint, I brought an aerial survey similar to what you have that actually outlines the house addition on it, if you would be interested in seeing that. I mean, it's just additional information, but the best way I can describe it is if you're looking out this way, out their front, and that addition would happen there. It's not happening in front of their house. So when they say directly in front, it's not exactly directly in front. It's, as you're going out the driveway here, it's over here.
But there's
Does that
another-
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But there's another part of the variance too that actually comes into play with these pie-shaped lots at the end of the cul-de-sac, which is not only the true setback, the 40 feet or 50 feet, so it's a 10-foot,
Right.
but also building up to the minimum allowed width of the lot,
Correct.
which we're also asking for here.
Correct.
So it's supposed to be, Allison, what's it supposed to be, 100? And we're building up to 75.
Correct.
I mean, could you even build a foot out without getting into that minimum width issue?
Sure, you could.
How far could you go out without getting into that?
When I originally looked at it, it looked like you could go about 5 feet,
5 feet?
4 or 5 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The original builder, the original contractor that put the house on the property didn't quite set it right on that front line. And I think that primarily that was because of the grade issue.
Yeah.
Is that he had to get that house back enough to get that driveway down to make it work.
What are the utility issues you identified when you were doing your site analysis and looking at these different options, going around the side, in the
Right.
back? And we heard some testimony from the property owner about, can't do that because I've got septic lines, I've got this. What exactly is the utility situation on both sides of the house, I'm wondering?
Okay, well, I can't say that we have exhaustively investigated the utilities. However, there are a few of them that are obvious as you're walking around the property. It's between the utility and the topography. It's both of those things that are under consideration when you start to entertain doing additions on either side. Between that and it's the actual programmatic requirements of locating a garage way on the left when the first garage is over here and having driveways going in separate directions. The biggest issue is on the right-hand side is you have a sanitary sewer line pump that comes out of the existing, and they have it, because the property is so low in relation to the public utilities on the street, they have to excavate it out of the house and then pump it up into the sewer lines in the street, okay? So what they have is a pretty elaborate system to excavate that sanitary line out from their basement area over to that and pump it up to the street. And that's really the biggest issue. Now, you're still going to have your electric lines. You're still going to have your other water line, other things. But those sorts of things, you're going to have to address anyway when you place any sort of structure in the front of this. And I think it's incumbent on the contractor to really investigate. You'll see on the plans we say, do not dig until you thoroughly investigate that. So we want to make sure that whatever contractor, whenever they get involved into the project, they definitely take a very thorough look at all that. You contact OOPS, O-U-P, OUPS, the public utilities, to locate all of that stuff. Right here. Does that answer the biggest issue?
So it's 500 here, not here.
Right.
Give us a quick second, we might have a few more
Sure,
questions
sure.
for you.
Yeah, the intention was with the area on the side to be able to landscape that so that any sort of change in elevation, you'd be basically seeing bushes and trees and that sort of thing more than anything else.
Could I ask one more quick question?
Sure.
One of the other issues, concerns brought up was the concreting over the roots of the big trees, and that will kill the trees because we get in the drip line.
The drip lines?
Yeah.
The
What
drip
is,
line
what's
comment
your
about drip-
observation on the trees that are near the property line that may be impacted by this? I guess I see one maybe in their front yard, the neighbor's front yard.
There may be one, as far as I know. If there, I can't tell you, in all honesty. People.
Sure, that's
People
fine.
pave areas on their
Yeah.
properties all the time, and I see trees growing up in the middle of driveways sometimes, but.
So if
I
we
couldn't-
stayed completely within zoning and we weren't even here tonight,
Right.
you think you could come out about 5 feet and then we'd start bumping into that medium lot,
Right.
minimum lot
There wouldn't be
width?
enough,
And-
for two things, there wouldn't be enough to get even the width of a car.
Well, right, I mean,
Into-
it's not usable. So
Yeah.
how far out does this design garage come out then? You could go 5, this one's coming out, I'm guessing, what, 20-some feet, isn't it?
22, yeah.
22, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I'm still confused as to how the new driveway, the new concrete driveway is not going to impact the pump. Are they going to concrete over the sewage pump line up to the street?
Yeah, the intention is to leave that there. and it not, where we were going to get into the pump is if we get too far down the side of the house. That was the intention.
And what's the width of the new driveway?
The width, at the point where you're entering the driveway, it's exactly the same width as the old driveway. If you look on the projection there, you'll see dashed lines that come down that show the width of the existing. And for the first, I don't know, 30 feet or so, it's exactly pretty much in the same location as the existing driveway. Then it continues down along the right-hand side.
But how, what's the width?
How wide?
Just
You need about 22, 23 feet to be able to back out of a garage and then turn. So from that standpoint, you're going to, I would guesstimate, just kind of here, that it's probably closer to 30 feet maybe from the furthest corner, if you want to say the corner that's created between the existing garage door and the new, that corner right about there, over to the side. That's the widest point, and it's probably, it might get to be 30, it might be less than that.
Any more questions? Mr. Hayden? Just a moment there, maybe we can have you come back up in a sec. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stick around.
I apologize, I came in late.
That's okay.
I didn't want to disturb you.
No, no problem.
Stuck in the corner.
No problem. Yes, Mrs. Dole, would you like to come back up? Go ahead and go back up to the microphone. Just identify yourself for when we transcribe it. But.
Again, my name is Patricia Dole at 7299 Tree Ridge Drive.
Sure.
With regard to the architect's statement that the house really, this addition, this 22-foot addition, and now in hearing it here, that there's 30-plus feet of concrete that's coming toward us, and this garage will come in 5 more feet toward us. He said it's really not in front of us, but this is taken from my living room window where the addition will be directly located on their driveway. That's from our living room window. So it really is, just because the way that the houses are angled, it's an odd angle, but this addition will really be right in front of our living room windows. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Okay, running out of people. Anybody else want to speak on this that's sworn in? Mr. Ely, did you have something to add? Yes, please do come if you have something you'd like to respond to, of course. Please just identify yourself for the tape.
Yeah, Rick Ely, 7298 Tree Ridge.
Go ahead.
I guess with respect to the utilities, I know Larry wasn't able to answer the utility questions. On the right side, neither one of us want to have a garage on the right side because of the trees back there. We want to protect the beauty. But the right side does have gas lines and an air conditioner and a bunch of other stuff going on there. So it is challenging on the right side. The sewer line today goes from the tank that's towards the back of the house on the right side. It goes up, and it goes underneath our concrete driveway today and then up the side of the blacktop all the way out to the street. So it goes under the concrete today. We're not anticipating it being a problem by putting this on top of it a little further back. If the line ever goes bad, we have to dig our current driveway up as it is anyway. But the tank is going to be well behind where the driveway ends. So the tank itself is fine and untouched, if you will. The landscaping, as you can see from this plan, it goes out to 2 feet. We don't have intention of going to 2 feet. 3 feet would be the absolute max so that we can use cars in the driveway. And as I said earlier, when we met with the landscaper, the hope is we don't have to go to 3 feet. So the 30 feet that Larry referenced, I don't know if we need to do all that, but there may be possibility that we could do less than some of that. But 3 feet, I think, is the general rule that people follow when you're trying to keep a driveway off the property line, is my understanding. I think our current garage is, I mean, it's highly visible today, our current garage. This one will, if you look on page 1 of the pictures, you know, this one will be kind of where our mulch bed is, so it will be sticking out a little bit, but it's, you know, I don't know that it's much worse than where we are, but we do want to provide trees and landscaping and things to try to make it less visible to the neighbors, and that is one of our goals. The only other thing, I guess, when we back out of our driveway today, we do have the electrical box that comes into play on our property. The box, I'm not sure if the box is actually on our property, but if you see that little box on your screen there, as we back out of our driveway today, that comes into play for us. And so we're always angling to the left to get out of the driveway and then further left to get out of the blacktop. So for us to turn around backwards and then back into their driveway is a little trickier. We haven't done that, you know, mainly because we're not comfortable doing it. We've only, you know, been here since, in this house, I guess, since we closed in June, so we're a little new to this. But as we back out, we know there's an electrical box there, and it concerns us running into that because it's a little dangerous. So we don't back out and then try to turn. Once we're going left, we keep going left all the way out the driveway. That's been how we do things. So this curve going around it would actually be beneficial to actually pull out forward instead of backing up because that box is still there. So that's one of the reasons that we want to pull out of the driveway forward as opposed to, you know, still backing up and turning around somewhere else. And again, we have 2 teenagers, so we have other worries that we're trying to take care of. I think that's all I had. You know, like I said, we're trying to do the best we can and make it palatable for everybody. And if we could do landscaping and things to make it look better, you know, we're certainly looking into that as we speak. So we want the neighborhood to look nice. We're not trying to, you know, just throw something together. The plan that Larry drew, we were surprised how nice it looked, and we're kind of excited to see if we can do it.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Mr. Ewing? Okay, thank you. Allison, I had a couple questions for you, I guess, on some of the things I heard on just driveways in general.
Right.
No setback applies to a driveway, does it?
No, we do have language that applies to a setback for parking, and that
Okay.
is 3 feet. But driveways, as you see, commonly aprons and things go all the way over to the property line.
So if the driveway is 3 feet, so is it a correct statement that if the driveway is less than 3 feet from the property line, you can't park on the driveway?
Correct.
Technically? Huh, okay.
One of those quirks that we see.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have questions for Allison?
I was having some of the similar thoughts of if there was any restrictions about driveways and parking pads and those kind of things. But apparently not.
Interesting. Okay.
I do have one other thought. Someone mentioned something is, I think the other gentleman, are there neighborhood restrictions about any of these things? Not that it matters, I just was curious from the overall neighborhood standpoint.
Why don't you come up and talk into the mic? That'd be great. Thank you.
Richard Herte, 6911 Merlin Court. We've lived in the neighborhood 25 years, and there were existing covenants that were in place. Original developer for 10 years, they did expire. They had a lot of provisions in there that dealt with setbacks. Neighborhood association, let them go south. Hey, we got to live with that. One of the big things in that was on-street parking, which is a personally continued frustration that I have, because it has become more and more along there. So this would, clearly exacerbate that in some way. Although, through a covenant standpoint, it's not there.
Okay. Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Right.
That's what you see a lot as those things have expired. Mr. Dole, did you have one more comment?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Tim Dole, 7299 Tree Ridge. In our discussions, I'd hate to see us minimize the fact that all we're going to see is taillights going in this garage, because garages have floodlights. When motion sensors, when the garage door goes up, you've already got lights over the top of the garage, and then the garage lights open up on the inside too. So it's not just little twinkly taillights that go into the garage. You've got an event.
Okay. All right, thanks. Okay, I think that does it. So we'll go ahead and close the public portion of this hearing on that case, Tree Ridge Drive. A lot of good information on that. So let's go into deliberation on, we'll jump back now to case 13-2014. I'll just say for everybody here, is this okay.
Live.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back and do deliberations on the first case. You're welcome to stay, and then we'll get to this case, which everybody's here for, so if you want to stick around, please do. Okay, case 13-2014 BZA, the request to have a variance to allow the height of the poles where the poles were ordered, but then they, when you add the base to the poles, it violates the zoning, and they're requesting a variance for that. So is there some discussion on that case?
Well, I'm always somewhat challenged by cases where we have construction in place that violates our zoning code. In this case, where they've inserted poles that exceed the height. And yet we've got some, I think, some good drawings and some good information that, I mean, if the intention of the zoning code is to prevent the spillage or encroachment of light on adjacent properties, that we're looking at a public way, we're looking at some other commercial property, and we're not looking at residential property. We've got some good photometric drawings that the appellant has given that indicates to the majority of that perimeter where their property abuts the other properties that any spillage of light over is minimal, probably less than a foot candle, which occurs along Kellogg, and the light spillage over on the adjacent property to the west is even less than that. So again, I'm not necessarily sympathetic to the fact that we've got a situation where where the appellant has already installed these light fixtures and they're in violation of the code. I don't see that granting the variance is going to bring any hardship to anybody, and certainly would be in favor of it.
I would concur, kind of after the fact, but I don't I'm sure was not intentional, and probably, if anything, the light spillage of the photometric probably enhances some of the lighting on Kellogg, and certainly to the adjacent properties. So, and from aesthetic point of view, from the street, I don't.
Okay, that sounds good. I would agree with that, all those points, and
Likewise.
plus I'd add that the fact came up that wherever those lights are lower than as you go towards the road, you're just getting taller or higher, so it's largely secluded from anybody who's going to be disturbed by it, so I'd agree with what the board said. Somebody like to make a motion on that case?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, regarding case number 13-2014 BZA at 6301 Kellogg Road, I move that this board grants the variance from Section 149A of the Anderson Township zoning resolution to allow lighting poles 28 feet high where a maximum height of 24 feet is permitted, that the variance is not substantial, that the elevation of Kellogg Road, as we've talked about, is higher than that of the parking area where the light poles are located. We also talked about the neighboring property as a commercial property and not residential. So any spillage of light is onto other parking lots. Lighting poles on neighboring property reach a similar height. Certainly the character of the neighborhood is not going to be substantially altered. And based on the drawings that we've received, that I want to yet enumerate here, we've got 4 drawings from Marnell Architecture, all received November 14th, 2014, that those be submitted as photometrics, which indicate any spillage of light that's going on to adjacent properties is minimal. The variance is not going to adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. We can certainly make the property owners predicament here be changed by lowering those poles, but this seems like it would create hardship, so the property owner's predicament really can't be feasibly obviated through some other method other than this variance, and that the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting this variance.
Okay, well done. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, is there further discussion on the motion?
Nope.
No further discussion. Roll call?
Steve Haber?
Aye.
Jeannie Bechtold?
Aye.
Brian Sanders?
Aye.
Brian Ellis?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Now let's go to the next case. We'll do deliberation on 14-2014 BZA Tree Ridge Drive. This is a very difficult case for me, and see, a lot of interesting issues with these pie-shaped lots, and also the desire to bring older homes up to modern standards and accommodate, and we have a lot of conflicting things going on in this case that we'll have to make a decision on, which will be impacted by these variances they've asked us to give. So does anybody have any thoughts on the variance requests? They're justified as a hardship or not justified?
I'm concerned with the drainage. That was one of the first things I noted when I was out there, and I don't think it's been thoroughly thought through what they're planning on doing with it, just having it go out to the back. They're essentially creating a channel. Granted, it may only impact the applicant's property, but I'd like to see a better plan of what they where all this water is going to go if there's already been a water issue. And maybe because this curbs will be there, but once it gets to the bottom of the driveway, then where is it going to go? And I just don't think that's been addressed clearly enough for me.
Okay.
That's one of my issues.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Sanders, did you have any thoughts on this case?
I agree with your assessment on the drainage. I don't think that's been completely thought through. I think the plans as drawn significantly increase the curb appeal of the house. And to your point, I mean, you get to these cases where you're trying to take these homes that were built 30 years ago and bring them up to current standards. So I understand, and I'm not sure how else you solve this problem. But let me ask, I guess, a question. As the plans are submitted, I think we've covered that this driveway only allowing 2 feet along the property line, I mean, is not possible. So, I mean, we certainly can't approve drawing as submitted. Am I understanding that correctly? I mean,
So you're saying that the driveway is shown as 2 feet off the property line, but...
per this drawing, yeah, it's...
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's not usable for parking per what we just heard, and that obviously can't be the intent,
Correct.
right? Yeah,
Correct.
good question.
Other thoughts? You guys have other?
I think Mr. Haber may have some thoughts.
He might. I agree with everything said so far. That I believe the architect has, I mean, one of the things we try to do is to make sure that a design enhances the home, enhances the character of the neighborhood, and I truly believe the architect has done a good job with the aesthetic solution to it. So I agree with that. There's concerns about drainage, there's concerns about landscaping and existing trees, there's concerns about parking within a certain dimension of a property line. I do believe that the architect's drawing doesn't show the correct rise of the driveway. In fact, if we are enlarging that area in front of the house, that we're going to be digging into the hill, which I believe is true, and therefore there may be some other retainage that is necessary on the opposite side, where the grade's going to be higher than the driveway. I am and remain concerned about, I mean, we look at this from an open space point of view, in that we maintain setbacks for the purpose of maintaining open areas, open views, and as you said, Mr. Eliff, that these pie-shaped lots always kind of give us a little bit of heartburn. My concern is for the neighbor that right now they have a situation that they've lived with all these years, and then we could encroach upon whatever green space they have on that side, which is just outside their prime living area, and we are creating construction. And so for me, I don't understand the hardship that the appellant is undergoing, with the exception that we've all got more cars to deal with. And yet I feel some sense that we're creating a greater hardship for the neighbor than we are than relieving a hardship for the appellant. I'm inclining to decline at this time.
Yeah, you know, one interesting thing that really struck me about this neighborhood, is an awesome neighborhood. I hadn't been up there before. It was really a pleasure to see one of those neighborhoods in Anderson Township. That neighborhood is all about the views. Now, you might have one of these amazing views for miles, or you might have views out the back of your lot, or you might have views across the street. And it seems like that people that might be attracted to that neighborhood, that's really important to them. And I did hear that from the neighbor, that their view, even though it's the front yard, it's important to them. So this case is really conflicting for me, because I'm very big on the ability for somebody to buy an expensive house like this and then come in and even want to improve it, bring it up to standards, give it a 3-car garage, you know, make it a place that's going to be their home, and it's going to accommodate their family, and it's going to be a modern house, and they're investing here in Anderson. And I really like that. And when I look at our BZA criteria, then I don't see that criteria, unfortunately.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
kind of challenging for me. But, you know, this drawing on the front sums it all up. This is a huge lot, it's a beautiful lot, and everything is happening right in the front of that. So really, when you look at this case, you should look at it like this. It's really a tiny lot we're looking at. That's what our focus is. And that's where the property owner is challenged, because they don't have a lot of good options here. And I guess, boy, I was going back and forth on this case, and I guess I still am a little bit, but I guess the bottom line I'm seeing on this is I have to come back to, why do you have front yard setbacks and these minimum distance setbacks on these pie-shaped lots? And it's because if you don't, then you just you can potentially end up and just crowd into that front part of the pie. And a lot of times that's maybe not a big deal. I did hear some reasons from the applicant that would justify the variance, for sure, if they were there by themselves.
Right.
But I also heard some comments on why there's concerns about that. And the concerns that you heard raised are kind of some of the reasons you have some of these rules. And it's not, and it's, I have to be careful, because it's not easy to present your case, and it's not easy to come and raise concerns about your neighbor either. That's really difficult to do. So I applaud both of everybody here who's came and spoken about this. It's not easy to do, but it's important to do. And so I guess I'm inclined to feel like if we granted this variance, it would have a substantial impact on the neighbor. I think it would be somewhat contrary to the area and character of the entire neighborhood. And even if I had more detail, like a complete landscape plan,
Right,
and I had a lot of detail about runoff and stuff like that, which I don't have, I'm not sure that would make a difference. But just when you look at this picture here, it's just, there's a lot going on up front, and probably is going to would look really cool, but I think I've heard some reasons why it could be a problem. And when you have that your house that you built, you we're entitled to rely on the zoning, and then all of a sudden it's being impacted upon.
Right.
And that's why you have a public hearing like that, to see if it's a big deal or not. So, guess that's where I'm at. I'm disappointed and reluctantly, I guess, opposed to the granting of the,
I think I'm of the same mindset that you are, and I'll add to your thoughts that I believe that the current homeowner has done everything they can, talking to the neighbors, drawing up plans, adding landscaping. Unfortunately, with the variance approved, the next homeowner of this house may not be as accommodating, and it could significantly impact the neighbors. So we have to assume that this addition is going to be here much longer than the current homeowner will be there. So it could be concerns down the road with how they treat the area and how they treat the neighbors, and with cars and landscaping. So while I love the plans, I'm leaning towards a denial as well.
okay, so is there any more discussion on that? Would somebody like to try and form a motion on this case? Guess I'll try and form a motion for us, unless you wanted to try it. Gene? Oh, okay.
Not allowed.
All right.
Yeah,
We'll suspend Robert's rules of order for 5 minutes.
why don't you go ahead, since you're more accustomed to doing this, but I'm in agreement that this is probably more so than,
Mr. Chair, regarding case number 14-2014 BZA located at 7298 Tree Ridge Drive, I move that we deny the variance requested from section 68.1 and 68.4 of the Anderson Township zoning resolution to allow a garage addition to be located with a 40-foot front yard setback where 50 feet is required, and at a location with a lot width of 75 feet where 100 feet is required. And it's based on the following, that the variance is substantial, that the subject property is a panhandle lot. We've had a lot of testimony and discussion here that the concentration of buildable area, although it's located at the front of the house, is also intended to be open. We've talked a number of discussion about views, and that the proposed addition would encroach upon views. Although I believe that the architectural solution regarding materials and layout are to be commended, that because of what I formerly said about open space and whatnot, that the character of the neighborhood could be substantially altered, and we've had a significant amount of testimony regarding the impact on the adjoining property owners, that we've had testimony that they would suffer a detriment as a result of granting a variance. The property owner's predicament could be obviated through some other method other than a variance, and there's been testimony that the adjacent property owner would be willing to enter into some discussions regarding a redesign regarding it, where the impact to the site and therefore the impact to their views would be minimized. And that the spirit intent behind the zoning requirement would not be observed and substantial justice would not be done if we granted the variance. Reluctantly so.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Haber. Is there a second for that?
Well said, thank you. I'll second that.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion?
Let me just say, I want to reiterate, this is a tough one.
Yeah, it really
This is a challenging one where I think we've got a solution that could be very good, and yet we've got some challenges with it. So I think denying it is where we do what we need.
Right. Okay, agree. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, roll call.
Steve Haber,
Aye.
Jean Bechtold,
Aye.
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
Brian Ellis.
Aye. Okay. Thank you all for coming tonight. Okay. Let's see, are we going to try and do, you want to do a journalize?
14.
Okay. Do we need to take a
quick break?
a 5-minute break?
Put that together.
Okay, great.
And then while you are breaking, housekeeping kind of announcement.
Yes.
Anderson Insights, the winter edition, has some room, and we have this section called Volunteer Voices. It is the Board of Zoning Appeals' turn. So I am putting it out there that Nancy Kane, that works on Insights for us, usually talks to 1 or 2 volunteers. She snaps a photo and asks you questions such as, why'd you volunteer to help out the township? So if any of you are interested, shoot me an email. It
We
is
defer to the
painless.
chair.
It's very painless.
I'd be happy to talk to her, Allison. Yeah.
Nobody else
That'd be
will, I
great.
will too. But, you know,
Yeah, and it's,
I'm
I
not
mean,
here that
quick-
often. I mean, I have to rely on my.
Are we still on the camera
Brian and I
too?
are.
We are, yeah.
You know, I did want to say before we take a
Rick is not
break
here.
is Rick Oberschmidt, you know, has served with us. We really have enjoyed having him on the board, and he's always there for us on these tough cases, for sure.
Right.
And I don't know if you all know, but he mentioned to me that this year was going to be his last year.
No, I
He
didn't
will
know
not
that.
be joining us in
Oh,
January.
no.
In fact,
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was going to be here, and when I was running late, I had his cell phone number. I didn't have any of you guys.
He said, fat chance I'm on an airplane now?
He was in Tennessee,
Oh, you
so...
called him up?
Yeah, I called him. So I need to get your guys' cell phone numbers.
Yeah, I thought, gosh,
But,
if I'm late, I said, well, I could probably email Allison, she probably has something there. I thought, how am I going to tell him if I'm going to be late?
But what a pleasure it was having him on the
Right,
board. And
wow.
I know I learned a lot from
Oh,
him, and
tremendous.
we look forward to seeing him in the community, of course. So
Yeah.
thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
He's-
So shall we take a quick break, everybody? Okay.
The guy's drawings are wrong.
I think so too.
Yeah,
He's not addressing anything that we,
is that your phone or mine?
oh, sorry, it is.
That's all right.
Sorry.
If you want to make a call, it's fine
No,
with me.
no, I was just checking what time it was. I
Let me
just got
make
this,
sure I
I'm
take the racy
learning.
pictures on it.
I'm sorry. I just got this, and I'm like, I don't even know how to use it quite completely yet.
Man, I hate, and that was a tough one, because I know Larry Tokarski. Yeah. That's why I wanted to make sure that I complimented. I'm good. So far, here we go. We need to make some reference to the drawings.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to add in our usual substantial components stuff.
I would say yes. Did we actually, I'm sorry if I missed it, did we actually have testimony, or is it in the staff report that the lighting poles are similar on the neighboring property? Okay. Yeah, oh, are they?
Do we want to say anything in number 2 about the photometrics, about the drawings, or just leave it as is?
I think it's worth mentioning if the
Yeah, I do
photometrics
too.
showed 0 or close to 0 at all property lines.
Can we just, there, right there is,
Are acceptable,
Well within, or is that
yeah, that works.
okay, that's cool.
you want to say foot count that, you want to say at the clock, in there. There you go. Looks pretty good. Does anybody else have changes on it?
Looks good.
Looks good to me. Oh, sorry, there's more.
We'd like to make a motion to approve and journalize as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve and journalize as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. So motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call?
Steve Haver,
Aye.
Jean Bechtold,
Aye.
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
Brian Ellis.
Aye.
Cool.
Any other business tonight? Ms. Hodson? Mr. Haber?
Well, there's a couple things, and I go back to accessory buildings, and our approach has been that accessory buildings are not allowed to encroach more than 30% of the rear yard. However, our approach has been to allow multiple accessory buildings. So what is the process of having some review of that? When I was on planning commission in Marymount, there was only one allowed. You could have an accessory building in the rear yard, but you could only have one. No, sorry.
We would just ask the Board of Trustees to take a look at the language within the zoning resolution and decide if they think it needs a clarification.
So maybe I missed, was there a case that's come up recently?
Actually, you did miss that. Mr. Sanders wasn't here. Was it just last month when we had the property
fireplace.
and they had a fireplace, swimming pool,
Gazebo.
basket? So,
Yeah.
and it was not a sizable rear yard,
Okay.
but the way we're required to look at it under the zoning resolution is you look at each accessory structure individually, even though when you aggregate them, they could cover the entire backyard. So
Wow.
that is kind of an interesting loophole. We don't see it, it actually came to light in that case, you know.
Right.
So somebody could conceivably build a very large garage and a very large shed
Garage
and another very large garage, and
Right.
the zoning staff would be obligated to issue zoning certificates for that, and that could be,
What was the variance they were requesting in this particular case? Do you recall? Was it,
is a setback.
Setback?
Yeah.
They had measured the location of the huge stone fireplace from the house rather than from the property line.
okay.
And there was a variation.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They were going off of a design dimension versus an as-built, and where they should have measured off the property line, they measured off the house, and it was what, 2'8" or 2'4" or
Yeah.
something like that, but the testimony was, well, they've got this basketball thing, they've got this.
Right.
They've got this swimming pool, now they've got this,
How big was this yard?
I don't think it was all that
It
big.
wasn't that deep.
It wasn't very.
It wasn't 30 feet, was it? It wasn't even 30 feet deep, I would say.
Did you get her number?
I did, yes,
So,
thank you.
I mean, Allison, so is that all you need to raise a question? or-
That's a good point.
You-
formally wrote a memo to the trustees that it's been requested and
Okay.
So do you need a motion or something, or just, okay. So we've raised the issue, and you could bring that to the trustees' attention. If
Wonderful.
they want to address it, they certainly can. If they
Good.
don't, they don't have to. So,
So you're still
The
on?
thing that's happened recently, which was chickens and bees that,
Chicken.
chickens and bees are kind of a, yeah.
I thought chicken coops, we denied chicken coops.
Yeah, we denied a chicken coop, I remember that case.
a woman who was denied to have a chicken coop within the 100-foot setback.
Right.
Asked the trustees to review that.
Oh, she did, okay.
That's Melanie. She's not going to give up.
Thank
You're welcome. Just one?
That's funny.
you. I think that's all we've got.
Assistant city solicitor.
I'm sorry, she's,
She's an assistant city solicitor.
oh, okay.
So Allison, next month we'll be nominating new officers,
Meeting
I
on
guess?
January 8th, our offices are actually closed the first of the year, so I won't be here and I don't want to see you here.
Okay.
The 8th,
Okay.
Here on the 8th, okay.
and we'll be nominating new officers.
Great.
So will you be, you're still on?
I'm still on.
Fred is?
So.
Everybody here is still on, and, well, I don't want to speak out of turn, I assume they are.
I like being the alternate.
I do too. That's what's alternate.
I travel enough that it just,
I guess resumes and applications.
My workload is such. I was
Okay.
freaking out getting here.
Well, we'll be excited to see that, for sure.
Okay, so we'll have we'll be able to have a quorum and vote on what we could not vote on tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Because there's, so what?
No, otherwise I would have, Rick offered to delay his flight for vacation.
He
if
should
needed. I was gonna make it
This is
happen.
BZA for crying out loud.
Yeah. What was he thinking?
Man.
Okay, shall we, anything else?
Let's
Okay,
rock and roll.
we're adjourned.
Thank you.